Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance. The first one is titled, "My sister stole my identity for a loan. I pressed charges. I'm Blair, 32F, and until recently, I had what I thought was a pretty good relationship with my younger sister Anna, 29F. Sure, we had our ups and downs growing up, but what siblings don't? We weren't best friends, but we got along well enough. At least, that's what I thought until I discovered she'd stolen my identity and taken out a $25,000 loan in my name. Let me give you some background. I've always been the responsible one in our family. I worked hard through college, got a steady job as an accountant, bought my own house, and built up a good credit score. Anna took a different path. She dropped out of college after 2 years, jumped from job to job, and always seemed to be struggling financially, despite our parents constantly helping her out. I should probably explain some of Anna's different path, because it really sets the stage for what happened later. Looking back, there were so many red flags that our family just ignored or excused away. It started in high school when Anna got her first credit card at 18. Within 3 months, she'd maxed it out buying designer clothes and going to concerts. Mom and Dad paid it off, lecturing her about responsibility, but never actually making her face any consequences. She needs to learn about money management, Dad said while writing the check to clear her debt. But we can't let this affect her credit score so young. That set the pattern. Anna would get into financial trouble, and our parents would bail her out. When she totaled her first car, uninsured of course, they bought her a new one. When she dropped out of college after partying away her tuition money for 2 semesters, they called it finding herself. I remember one particularly bad incident when Anna was 24. She'd moved in with a boyfriend and decided they should start a cupcake business together, despite neither of them having any baking or business experience. "Blair, it's going to be amazing," she gushed over coffee one day. "His aunt gave us the startup money, and we've already ordered all this professional equipment." 3 months later, said boyfriend was gone with half the equipment, the business had never made a single sale, and Anna was crying to our parents about the $15,000 loan she'd guaranteed for the rest of the supplies. "It wasn't my fault," she sobbed. "He promised he knew what he was doing. Mom and Dad refinanced their house to pay off that loan. I was furious. You're not helping her by constantly cleaning up her messes," I argued during a family dinner. "She needs to learn responsibility." "You don't understand, Blair," Mom defended her. "Anna's just different. She's a free spirit. Not everyone can be as organized as you are." That free spirit excuse covered a multitude of sins, like the time Anna got involved with a multi-level marketing scheme selling essential oils. She convinced several family members to invest in her business, including our grandmother, who gave her $5,000 from her savings. When the whole thing inevitably collapsed, Anna just shrugged it off. "At least we all learned something about business," she said cheerfully at the next family gathering, while Grandma sat quietly in the corner, her retirement fund $5,000 lighter. Or the time she decided to become a professional photographer, spent thousands on equipment borrowed from our cousin, then lost interest and sold the equipment to invest in cryptocurrency, leaving that cousin unpaid. "He shouldn't have loaned her the money if he couldn't afford to lose it," was Mom's response when I brought it up. I tried to help Anna in more constructive ways. I offered to help her create a budget, tried to teach her about saving and investing responsibly. She'd always listen enthusiastically, take careful notes, and then completely ignore everything we'd discussed. "You worry too much, Blair," she'd say. "Money comes and goes. The universe provides." The universe, in Anna's case, usually wore the face of our parents or some other family member she'd convinced to help her with her latest scheme. Even 6 months before the identity theft incident, there were warning signs I should have seen. Anna had started talking about some amazing business opportunity she'd discovered through a guy she met at a bar. "He's got this whole system figured out," she told me over brunch. "You invest a little money and it grows exponentially. You should get in on it, Blair. With your accounting background, you'd totally understand the genius of it." I explained to her how pyramid schemes worked and begged her not to get involved. She rolled her eyes and called me a negative Nancy. 2 weeks later, she was asking our parents for money to get in on the ground floor of something big. They refused for once, probably because Dad had just retired and their finances were tighter than usual. I remember feeling relieved that Anna might finally have to face reality. Little did I know she'd find another way to get the money she needed. Don't get me wrong, Anna's not a bad person. She's actually really charismatic and fun to be around. People are naturally drawn to her, but she's always had this attitude that things will work out somehow without actually putting in the work to make them work out. I first noticed something was wrong when I started getting these weird calls from a collection agency in March. At first, I thought it was a scam. They were talking about a loan I knew I hadn't taken out. I told them they had the wrong person and hung up, but they kept calling. After the third call, I decided to check my credit report. What I found made my blood run cold. There it was, a $25,000 personal loan taken out 6 months ago in my name with missed payments for the last 3 months. I immediately called the loan company, and after some back and forth, they sent me the loan application documents. That's when I saw it, my social security number, my date of birth, but Anna's phone number and email address. She had used my identity to take out the loan, probably thinking she could make the payments before I ever found out. I felt sick to my stomach. This wasn't just a sister borrowing money without asking. This was fraud. This was a crime that could seriously impact my financial future. I called Anna right away. "Hey Blair, what's up?" She answered casually, like she hadn't just committed identity theft. "Anna, I need you to explain something," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why is there a $25,000 loan in my name that I never took out?" There was a long pause. "Oh God, Blair, I can explain," she started, her voice taking on that pleading tone I'd heard so many times when she was in trouble. "I was in a really tight spot. I needed the money for my business venture, and I knew you wouldn't understand if I asked." "Business venture? What business venture?" "I met these guys who have this amazing investment opportunity. They promised a 300% return in just a few months. I was going to pay you back before you ever found out, with interest." I felt like I was going to throw up. "Anna, are you telling me you stole my identity to get a loan for some get-rich-quick scheme?" "It's not like that. These guys are legitimate businessmen. They just had some temporary cash flow issues." "Stop," I cut her off. "Just stop. Do you understand what you've done? This isn't just about the money. You've committed fraud. You've damaged my credit score. You've betrayed my trust in the worst possible way." "I'm sorry," she started crying. "I'll fix it, I promise. Just give me a little more time." "Time? The loan is already in collections. How are you planning to fix this?" I don't know," she admitted. "But please, Blair, please don't tell Mom and Dad. They'll kill me." I hung up and sat there staring at my phone. My hands were shaking. I knew what I needed to do, but I also knew it would tear our family apart. I called my best friend for advice. "You have to report this," she said immediately when I told her what happened. "This isn't just about the money. This is fraud. If you don't report it, you'll be responsible for that debt." "But she's my sister," I said weakly. "Who stole your identity?" "Blair, I know you want to protect her, but she didn't think twice about potentially ruining your financial future. You need to protect yourself." I knew she was right. The next day, I went to the police station to file a report. The officer taking my statement was sympathetic but direct. "You understand that filing this report means your sister could face criminal charges?" he asked. I nodded, fighting back tears. "I understand." Of course, it didn't take long for the news to spread through our family. My parents called me that evening, both of them on speakerphone. "Blair, how could you do this to your sister?" my mom demanded. "She made a mistake, but going to the police. She could go to jail." A mistake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, she stole my identity. She took out a $25,000 loan in my name." "But we're family," my dad chimed in. "We should be handling this privately, not getting the police involved." "And how exactly should we handle it?" I asked. "Anna has no way to pay back the loan. She got scammed by some investment scheme. My credit is ruined. How would handling it privately fix any of that?" "We'll figure something out," Mom insisted. "Your father and I could help with the payments." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not letting you enable her again. She needs to face consequences for her actions." "You've always been so hard on your sister," Mom said, her voice thick with disappointment. "She's going through a rough time." "She committed a crime, Mom, against me. Why am I the bad guy here?" The calls and texts kept coming. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Suddenly everyone had an opinion about how I should handle this family matter. My cousin even showed up at my house one evening. "Come on, Blair," he said, sitting at my kitchen table. "Anna messed up, but she's part of the family. You really want her to have a criminal record?" "She should have thought about that before committing identity theft," I replied. "Would you be so understanding if she'd stolen your identity?" He didn't have an answer for that. The detective assigned to my case called a few days later. They had everything they needed to move forward with charges. Anna had been brought in for questioning and had admitted to everything. Your sister's looking at potential felony charges, the detective explained. However, given that this is her first offense and she's admitted guilt, the prosecutor might be willing to work out a plea deal. The next few months were a nightmare. Anna was formally charged with identity theft and fraud. Our parents hired a lawyer for her, draining their retirement savings in the process. Every family gathering became awkward and tense, with relatives taking sides and arguing about whether I was right to press charges. The case finally went to court in July. Anna took a plea deal. She would avoid jail time but would be on probation for 3 years, have to pay full restitution, and complete financial counseling courses. The prosecutor also required her to write me a formal letter of apology. The letter arrived a week after her sentencing. Dear Blair, I know saying sorry isn't enough for what I did. I betrayed your trust in the worst way possible. I convinced myself that it wasn't really stealing because you were my sister, and I was going to pay it back before you found out. I see now how wrong that thinking was. I was desperate and stupid, and instead of asking for help properly, I took advantage of your good credit and responsible nature. I didn't think about how my actions would affect you. I was only thinking about myself. I understand why you pressed charges. You were right to do it. I needed this wake-up call. I'm working with a financial counselor now and really trying to understand how to manage money properly. I know it will take a long time to rebuild your trust, if you ever can trust me again. I hope someday you can forgive me. Love, Anna. The letter felt sincere, but it didn't undo the damage to our relationship. Our parents are still barely speaking to me, convinced I should have found another way to handle the situation. Most family gatherings are now split, with people having to choose which sister to invite to avoid drama. Anna has stuck to her probation requirements and has been making small but regular payments toward the restitution. She found a steady job as an administrative assistant and seems to be getting her life together. We've had a few brief, polite conversations at mandatory family events, but our relationship will never be the same. Last week, I got a call from our mom, trying once again to patch things up. Anna's really changed, she insisted. She's working hard, being responsible. Don't you think it's time to forgive and forget? Mom, I sighed. I'm glad Anna's doing better. Really, I am. But she didn't just borrow money without asking. She stole my identity. She committed fraud. That's not something I can just forget. But she's your sister. Yes, and she betrayed me in one of the worst ways possible. Why is it that everyone expects me to just get over it? But nobody expected her to not commit a crime in the first place. Mom didn't have an answer for that. The truth is, I don't regret pressing charges. The whole situation forced Anna to finally face consequences for her actions, something our family had always protected her from. She's actually doing better now than she ever did when everyone was enabling her bad decisions. But I'd be lying if I said it doesn't hurt. Every time I see a family photo on social media that I wasn't there for, every time I hear about a family gathering I wasn't invited to, it stings. I did the right thing legally, but I lost my family in the process. My credit score is slowly recovering. The loan has been removed from my credit report since it was proven to be fraudulent. I've put extra security measures in place to prevent any future identity theft. But the trust I lost? That might never recover. Last month, I ran into Anna at the grocery store. It was awkward at first, but we ended up having coffee together. She's still going to her financial counseling sessions, even though it's no longer required by her probation. I really am sorry, she said as we were leaving, not just for what I did, but for how I handled everything after. You were right to report it. I needed that wake-up call. I'm glad you're doing better, I told her. I really am, but you can't trust me anymore, she finished. I understand, I wouldn't trust me either. Some of my relatives still think I was too harsh, that I should have found another way to handle it. But here's the thing. Sometimes the right decision isn't the easy one. Sometimes being the bad guy is necessary to break toxic family patterns. I got a letter from Anna's financial counselor last week. She asked Anna's permission to share with me that she's been using my case as an example in her group sessions. Not to shame Anna, but to show others how financial crimes have real victims and real consequences, even when, especially when, they're committed against family members. So, here I am, still dealing with the fallout of my decision. My sister is doing better, but our relationship is forever changed. My parents are slowly coming around, but things will never be the same. Was it worth it? I think so, even though it hurts. Sometimes doing the right thing comes at a high personal cost. The hardest part isn't the family drama or the damaged relationships. It's dealing with the constant second guessing from people who think family loyalty should trump everything else, even criminal behavior. But I stand by my decision. Identity theft is a serious crime. And the fact that it was committed by my sister doesn't make it any less serious. I just wish more people understood that holding someone accountable for their actions isn't the same as not loving them. Sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do. A lot has happened since then, and while the damage the entire situation did to my family's relationships was massive, I can at least say things are improving. Anna has now paid back about 40% of the loan through her restitution payments. She's stuck to her payment plan without missing a single installment. More surprisingly, our parents have finally started to come around. Dad called me last week to apologize. "I was wrong," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "We should have held Anna accountable for her actions long ago. Maybe if we had, she wouldn't have done something this serious." Mom is taking longer to come around, but she's getting there. She admitted during our last conversation that Anna's current stability is probably because she finally had to face real consequences. The family is still somewhat divided, but the lines aren't as sharp anymore. More relatives have started reaching out to me, often with their own apologies for how they reacted initially. As for Anna and me, we're slowly rebuilding some kind of relationship. It's different now, more distant, more cautious, but maybe that's not entirely bad. She's showing real growth and responsibility, and while I don't think I'll ever trust her completely again, I'm proud of the changes she's making. Someone asked me recently if I regret pressing charges, knowing how it would affect our family. My answer is still no. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones, and sometimes real love means being willing to be the bad guy if that's what it takes to break destructive patterns. For anyone facing a similar situation, don't let family pressure stop you from protecting yourself. Real family should want what's best for you, even if that means facing uncomfortable truths. Here are my thoughts about the story. What really got me here was how the parents were basically creating this monster over literal years, like paying off credit card debt when she's 18, buying her a new car after she crashed an uninsured one. I was sitting here about to yell at my screen like, "Stop enabling her!" And can we talk about the grandma losing $5,000 to an MLM scheme? That part made my blood boil. Like, taking advantage of your own grandmother's retirement savings and then being all, "Oh, well, we all learned something, tee-hee." Girl, the only thing Grandma learned is that she raised some kids who raised a con artist. But here's what really gets me. Everyone in the family acting like the OP was the bad guy for pressing charges. Excuse me? The sister committed actual, literal identity theft. That's not borrowing money or making a mistake. That's a whole federal crime. And they're out here like, but she's part of the family. Yeah, exactly. Family shouldn't steal your identity and rack up $25,000 in debt. The part that had me slow clapping at my desk was when OP mentioned the financial counselor using this case as an example in group sessions. Because yes, this is exactly what happens when you enable people for too long. They start thinking they can get away with literal crimes because someone will always bail them out. And let's be real about that apology letter from jail. It was probably the first time in Anna's entire life that she had to actually sit down and think about how her actions affected other people. Like, really think about it, not just cry some crocodile tears until mommy and daddy fixed everything. You know what really killed me, though? When the parents drained their retirement savings to pay for Anna's lawyer. Again, with the enabling. Even after she committed identity theft, they're still trying to protect her from consequences. At this point, I'm wondering if they'll still be bailing her out when they're living in a cardboard box because they spent their retirement on her mess-ups. The update was satisfying, though. Dad finally admitting they should have held Anna accountable years ago? Better late than never, I guess. And Anna actually making regular payments and sticking to her probation requirements. Look at that. Turns out she can be responsible when someone finally forces her to be. I love how OP ended it too. That line about how holding someone accountable isn't the opposite of loving them. That hit hard because it's so true. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their actions instead of constantly protecting them from reality. For real though, if any of you are dealing with family members like Anna, please remember, you're not responsible for protecting them from their own bad decisions. And if those bad decisions start affecting your own life and your own future, you have every right to protect yourself, even if that means being the bad guy in your family's eyes. But anyways, guys, with this, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video/comment if you enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow.